created God? It's a question that echoes in the minds of many skeptics, seekers, philosophers, and even believers. At first glance, it seems like a reasonable question. After all, everything we know seems to have a cause. Buildings have builders. Paintings have painters. Children have parents. So, if everything must have a cause, shouldn't God also have one? But what if this very question is flawed at its core? What if asking who created God is like asking, what does the color blue taste like? Or, what sound does a square make? In this video, we'll take a deep dive into this profound question. We'll look at it through the lens of philosophy, theology, logic, science, and reason. And by the end, you'll not only have an answer, you'll have clarity. Let's begin. Why the question arises. In our human experience, everything we encounter seems to have a beginning. We are born, we grow, we die. The sun rises and sets. Trees grow from seeds, rivers flow from springs. So when we think about God, or any higher power, it feels natural to ask, where did God come from? Our brains are hardwired to search for causes. This is called causal reasoning, the belief that everything that exists must have been caused by something else. It's a useful principle. It helps us survive. It helps us understand our world. But sometimes we apply this principle too broadly. And when we ask, who created God, we might be making a category mistake. Let's explain. What is a category mistake? Imagine someone walks into a university and says, I've seen the library, I've seen the classrooms, I've seen the dorms, but where is the university? You'd realize they're confused. The university isn't one building. It's not one room. It's the entire institution, a collection of many things. Asking, where is the university? In that context, is a category mistake. It's asking the wrong kind of question about the wrong kind of thing. Similarly, asking who created God might be making the same kind of error, because God, by definition, is not the kind of being that is created. Let's unpack this. What do we mean by God? To answer any question properly, we need to define the terms. So, what do we mean when we say God? Different cultures and religions have different conceptions. But in classical theism, shared by Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and certain branches of philosophy, God is understood as eternal, uncaused, necessary, all-powerful, all-knowing, the creator of all things. God in this view is not just another being in the universe. He is the ground of all being. He doesn't exist within time. He created time. He doesn't live within space. He brought space into existence. He isn't part of the chain of causes. He is the foundation that holds the chain up. So to ask, who created God, is to misunderstand what God is. It's like asking, what is north of the North Pole? The Kalam cosmological argument. One of the most famous arguments for God's existence is called the Kalam cosmological argument. It goes like this. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe has a cause. This cause, philosophers argue, must be timeless, spaceless, immaterial, and incredibly powerful. And if it caused time, it must exist outside of time, which means it has no beginning. So it doesn't need a cause. Only things that begin to exist need causes. God didn't begin to exist. So he doesn't need a cause. That's the heart of the argument. Now, let's address some objections. But isn't that special pleading? Some critics say this argument cheats. They say it goes like this. Everything needs a cause, except God. But that's not what it says. It says, everything that begins to exist needs a cause. That's different. Think of numbers. The number 7 never began to exist. It's abstract. It's always been there in the realm of logic and mathematics. You don't ask, who invented the number 7? In the same way, if God is eternal, He didn't begin to exist. So He doesn't need a cause. This isn't special pleading. It's consistent logic. Infinite regress, a problem without a first cause. Let's say we reject God as the first cause. Let's say everything comes from something else, forever. Well, then we have an infinite regress of causes, like dominoes falling, but with no first domino. If there's no first cause, nothing ever gets started. If you need permission from an infinite line of people before you can open a door, the door never opens. And the same applies to existence. If every cause needs another cause before it, and this goes on forever, then nothing would exist now. But things do exist. So the chain of causes must have a beginning, and that beginning must be uncaused. That's God. What about science? Science can explain many things. It tells us how stars form, how species evolve, how cells divide. But science works within the universe. It studies time, space, matter, and energy. It cannot explain where time, space, matter, and energy came from. That's a philosophical question, or more precisely, a metaphysical one. In fact, the Big Bang Theory, the most accepted model of the universe's origin, points to a beginning of time and space, which means science supports the idea that the universe began to exist. And if it began, it must have a cause. That cause must lie beyond the realm of science. And that's where God comes in. What do atheists say? Atheists have proposed several alternatives. Some say the universe is eternal, that it has always existed in some form. But this goes against current scientific evidence and raises its own problems, like entropy. Others say the universe created itself. But how can something create itself before it exists? That's logically impossible. Some appeal to quantum mechanics, claiming particles pop into existence from nothing. But this nothing is not truly nothing. It's a quantum vacuum, a seething sea of energy governed by laws. It's still something. True nothingness, no space, no time, no laws, produces nothing. So far, every alternative still leaves us with the same question. What caused it all? And every road leads back to the necessity of an uncaused cause, the nature of necessary being. Philosophers talk about two types of things, contingent and necessary. Contingent things depend on something else to exist. Your phone, your house, you, me. But a necessary being doesn't depend on anything else. It exists by the necessity of its own nature. It cannot not exist. That's what God is. If God were contingent, we'd need to ask what caused him. But if he's necessary, then he simply is. As Scripture puts it, when Moses asked God for his name, God replied, "I am who I am," self-existent, eternal, uncaused. God versus the flying spaghetti monster. Some skeptics mock the idea of God by saying, why not believe in a flying spaghetti monster? Or a pink unicorn? But here's the difference. The flying spaghetti monster is a contingent being. It's made of parts. It exists in time. It's absurd by design. It's not a necessary being. It doesn't explain anything. God, as conceived by classical theism, is not absurd or arbitrary. He is the necessary foundation of all existence. It's not about blind faith. It's about rational necessity, personal implications. If God is the uncaused cause of everything, then we are not cosmic accidents. We are created. We are wanted. We are known. And that changes everything. It means our lives have meaning, purpose, direction. We're not just stardust bumping into stardust. We are souls, crafted by a timeless, intelligent creator. Conclusion. Is it a valid question? So, back to the question. Who created God? Is it valid? It's understandable. It's sincere. But it's misdirected. Because God, by definition, is uncreated. If He were created, He wouldn't be God. Everything that begins to exist needs a cause. God did not begin. Therefore, He needs no cause. So the question isn't just flawed, it's based on a misunderstanding. But asking it can lead us to deeper truths, if we're willing to explore. Closing words. In a world full of noise, doubt, and questions, don't be afraid to seek, ask, explore, wrestle, but also listen, reflect, and recognize that not all questions are what they seem. Sometimes the answer is not, who created God? But what does it mean if God created me? Thanks for watching. If this video helped you, share it with someone asking the same question. And remember, you're not an accident. You're here for a reason. Stay curious, stay thoughtful, and stay tuned for more.